all the way in Philadelphia. It is Mr. Paul Felder, no stranger anyway to me. Paul Felder, how are you, my friend? Great to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I'm loving that set. Looking super fancy over there, buddy.
Do you like it? About time. I think it's great. We've got MMA on a mainstream outlet here in Ireland. So yeah, pretty pleased. I'm looking forward to the first show. Anyway, obviously this is going to be a part of the first show. How are you, first of all, Paul? Obviously, the injury with the arm, you broke the arm in that fight against Mike Perry, throwing that spinning back fist. How are you, my friend? How's the arm healing up?
It's doing great, man. I forget that I even have anything going on with that. You know, it's gotten to that point. It healed really, really fast. Took me about 6 to 8 weeks, and bones completely healed through. I would say I'm about 90% cleared for combat. They just want me easing into sparring. I have to get used to getting hit there again. It's just going to be a little sensitive for a little while. But as far as everything else, I'm cleared to go. I'm cleared to lift any kind of weight I want. Hit the bags, hit pads. I can wrestle. I can do jiu-jitsu again. So this week is really the first week of training coming up that I'll be able to do something other than cardio or punch stuff with my left hand. So I'm excited to get started this week.
Paul, obviously, I know you quite some time, and I spent a little bit of time with you in the build up to fights and on fight week. You're a guy who's never out of the gym. It must have been a very trying time for a guy like you. I know you had the injury, the cut and the laceration you sustained against Francisco Trinaldo, but that must have been the biggest frustration, not being able to go in and start some pads.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, it's my job. I mean, I know I have commentary to keep me a little busy now, but it's what I do. I wake up, I go to the gym, I stay learning, I stay in shape, and I enjoy it. So when I can't do it, it's not only, okay, I can't do my job, but I'm also missing a part of me that makes me happy, So for the first few weeks, it was rough. But once we got past that, and I met with the doctor again, he started giving me things I could do, and I really just kind of took to those things, and that kept me at least occupied for the first month and a half. Now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready to get back on the mats and start putting in some real training hours.
Paul, the fight itself, it must be a weird one for you, obviously, because you stepped up to 170 pounds, made your welterweight debut in the UFC. You broke your arm in the first round. Incredible as well, the actual break itself. It was straight through that portion of your arm. And to fight on so well and to go to decision. I know it was a loss, but is it probably the best loss you could probably ever have under the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was able to show the MMA community and my fans, what Philly fighters are made of, and who I am as a person and what I'm able to push through. And sometimes you got to have a performance like that. You've got to have one where you just show your grit and show your toughness. And I've done those in the past, but nothing in comparison to having a broken arm for. Yeah,
talk to me. What was it like? Was it were you going on the adrenaline? Because it was evident for me that you were seriously badly hurt after you threw that spinning fist. And I remember, obviously hearing Duke in the corner as well. And I think you were saying to Duke, and Duke was just going, you have to just manage with one arm and do as much as you can with the one arm. What was your thought process in there?
It was chaos, man. I can tell you that is one of those fights where, looking back on it, it was madness. It was madness in the corner. I'm trying to deal with my arm. Duke's trying to get me focused. The cut guys are patching up cuts. You're bleeding everywhere. You're tired. And every time I took a break, so when I would sit on the stool in between, that's when I would really start to feel it. That's when I could feel the bones moving around on my arm. I was trying to make a fist. You could actually feel the bones kind of grinding together. And if you look at the break on my x-ray, you could see what I was feeling. It was actually those bones kind of just grinding next to each other. So it was just probably the craziest MMA experience I've ever had in my life, dealing with the arm, and dealing with a guy who hits like that and having a broken arm. It was fun at the end of the day, though. The hospital trip wasn't fun. But. Yeah,
I saw that. I was going to mention that to you in a moment. You were sitting, I think, 4 hours on the trolley in Las Vegas hospital, blood squirting down your face, and it didn't look pretty anyway, that side of you. I think you posted a picture on your Twitter after the fight. It was pretty insane.
Yeah, it was not the best, and since it was such a busy hospital, Jared Gordon and Craig Egelberg, the guys that were with me at the hospital, couldn't even be back there for 90% of the time. So I'm just sitting there by myself. My cuts are still bleeding, you know. My arm's obviously in pain, but at least I was put in a temporary splint at that point, so I was able to deal with that. But it was just one of those reflective moments as a fighter. It's like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
You're the craziest bunch of sports athletes in the world. But just before we move on, you know, does that give you a massive amount of confidence knowing you're going to be able to overcome such a situation like that and fight on? And listen, I think it was a split decision as well in the end. Like, you weren't too far away from winning the fight.
Yeah, it was close, man. You know, every time I watch it, I'm like, I put up one hell of a fight for having a busted arm. Yeah, I mean, I think it just gives you the confidence to know that no matter who I'm in there with, I'm going to give them hell, and I can take some beatings and come back through whatever's going on.
Did it feel like a loss?
Yeah, it always does. It does. I know to the fans and everything like that. And I got a ton of support from people based on that fight, man. I got to say, I got a lot of love, but it's, as a fighter and anybody that's a competitor out there, that doesn't matter how close it was, how great it was still an L on my record.
Okay, Justin Gaethje, I know, made a suggestion to you after the fight in the octagon and when you were interviewing him. James Vick as well, there was talk of that from Milwaukee. I don't think you're going to be fit in time for Milwaukee. Is that true?
No, I'm not risking it. That was the dream. And me and Duke talked the other day. He gave me a phone call, and he was like, let's be honest. We were being really positive in thinking that there was any chance that you would be ready by. And the UFC PI and Heather and all those guys, they kept telling me there is a chance. And here's the thing. I am going to be cleared to fight at that point. But I personally want to have at least a month or so where I'm sparring out of camp, getting used to my arm, then start a training camp. So, I mean, all the doctors were kind of right in that I will be ready by December 15th, but I won't be ready and comfortable to do a full training camp, especially if it's somebody like a James Vick or a Gaethje or anybody even in the top 20. It's like, these guys are all so good. I'm not risking hurting my arm again, or even worse, I probably won't hurt my arm again. The doctor said I have just as good of a chance of breaking any other bone in my body at this point than I do that arm. Probably more of a chance of breaking another bone.
The bionic forearm?
Yeah, because now it's supported, and that bone is calcified, and it's probably stronger than it was. But if I'm not comfortable blocking, I start favoring it. That leaves me open for shots that maybe I would have never gotten hit with. So, yeah, I'm thinking January. I think January is going to be perfect.
Yeah, there's some big cards on in January.
Because I did want to fight before Christmas. It's, you know, my family's, we have a huge Christmas Eve party. I would be there with my mom, my brothers, my daughter, all my aunts and uncles. But I'm going to be there regardless. I just won't be able to eat any chocolate chip cookies and junk food.
Junk food, you talk about. You talk about that. So what is the process going forward? Obviously, your last fight was at 170. Is it going back down to 155? I know your mom, Marion, doesn't want you to go back through that again. You know, it is a big cut for you. It's a 7-week process. You're not one of these guys that can take a fight at 155 pounds on 2 weeks' notice. It's just a no for you. In terms of how you felt in there against Mike Perry, you know, obviously not cutting the mass amount of weight you did to get 155. What is your feeling about going forward? It seems as though you're pretty much focused and set and going back down to 155.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that the reason I want to have a little more time is because it's been a long time off. You know, I'm a little heavier than maybe I would like to be. So I would like to get a lot of good training, get in really good shape, then start my training camp so that the weight cut doesn't have to be as bad as maybe it has been in the past. I don't want to have to, you know, really murder myself the last couple of weeks. So I want to get that all on point. Yeah, it looks like 55. I'm not canceling out any chances of 70 in the future or on short notice. If the UFC calls me up and they need a replacement, I can make 70 on short notice. I can't make 155 on short notice.
How did you feel in there? What's the major differences in terms of how you get into the octagon on fight night on how you actually feel in terms of performance levels and cardio and fitness?
Physically, I felt great. I had energy through everything. Like, you've seen me. So normally, Wednesday, Thursday, it starts getting, I'm drawn out. I look like a different person. There was none of that for 170. I felt great. I just cut a couple pounds the morning of weigh-ins in the tub, and that was it. And I was good to go. I was eating all week. I was eating rice. I was eating potatoes, carbs, fruit. And but here's the thing. I felt great. But I was almost too happy, Niall. I was almost too happy.
A happy Paul Felder? Don't think so.
I think I need to be I feel like a caged animal a little bit when I fight. I feel like I need to be a little freaking miserable. And the whole process, it's fight week. I got to cut that weight. That first battle, not having that felt really weird to me. But maybe it's just because I'm so used to.
So you were almost too comfortable, you felt?
Yeah.
You need that nasty edge.
I didn't have that edge.
Wow. That's amazing. And listen, you've done it before, obviously, since I think it was your first fight in Roufus sport. I think you sort of even said that to me. You had to starve yourself away in the end of the gym in Roufus sport, living in that room, and sort of a manner in which sets you up for your fight. Interesting stuff. So it does look like 55, as you said there. That seems to be your process. Is Justin Gaethje in the taking, or is it James Vick? What is the name? Because Vick was obviously a name that came back up after his loss to Justin, and then Justin also said it in the octagon to you.
I like both those fights. I don't think Justin will take the fight with me because I don't think he's got
the balls
as much to gain from me other than a headache the next day. It's not going to move him up the rankings necessarily. I mean, it might get him fight of the last 100 years with me, but
well, he did say it on the TV broadcast to you, so surely it's something he's interested in if he's going to say it on a platform like that. No,
I think he's interested, but I think we just kind of like. I feel like we respect each other and have a mutual kind of buddy feel going on. Even if we fought, I feel like I like Justin Gaethje. I like what he represents. I like how he is. He is what he is. So I feel like he was just kind of poking at me a little bit because he had probably heard that and just wanted to call me out on it. But I would love a fight with him. I'd love a fight with James. Pretty much anybody in and around the top 15 right now. A lot of guys are booked up too, so it might just be a matter of seeing who wants to take the fight when and what Sean Shelby and those guys think. But I think definitely January, whatever that first ESPN show is, something I'm putting my eye on right now. So we'll see. We'll see where it's going to be and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully the arm just keeps going the way it's going because it's healing really well.
Good stuff. I'd watch any of those fights. Really, really exciting fights on paper, either or. You mentioned the division is pretty tied up at the moment. We've two massive fights in the UFC lightweight division coming up on Saturday week in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the T-Mobile arena. Obviously, a couple of your teammates on the card as well. Anthony Pettis, he's going up against Tony Ferguson in an absolutely smashing fight, and for me, probably a number one contenders fight for that world title fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor. You're a guy. You've done brilliant. You've got a lot of sort of plaudits from the media and fans alike, the job you've done with Fox on your analyst role. And that's a lot of the reason why I wanted you on this week, is to talk about that fight, Conor and Khabib. First of all, your excitement levels. I know you're a guy who watches a lot of fights. Thoughts off the bat, and how good basically this fight is for the sport.
I am excited. I can be honest and tell you that that's not something I'm making up just to act like I'm being a good company guy. That fight does excite me. It is the fight that needed to happen, and it's finally happening. We get to see Conor tested against all these things that everybody doubts about him. Right? Well, how's he going to handle somebody with such powerful wrestling and ground and pound and all this stuff? And as far as Khabib, we know he's been touched. He's been touched by Michael Johnson. Like, we keep bringing that up, but nobody's been able to put him away yet, even big punchers. So a lot of questions are going to get answered, and I think it's great for the sport. I think anytime there's a matchup that the fans want, the company wants, and the fighters can finally get together and sign a contract and get it done, it's going to move things forward, and it needs to move the division forward. It's been kind of clogged up right now. And I think that fight is the first one that really can move things around. And then you got Anthony and Tony on the same card. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement in 155 coming up really soon.
When you look at the fight as a contest, Conor and Khabib, you know, everyone, you know, it's not rocket science. It's striker versus grappler matchup. But in terms of the fight itself, you know, what has Conor got to do to win this fight? Is it land that left hand, you know, once, or is it, you know, going to be something a little bit more complicated? Because it's been very much sort of black and white the way people are looking on at this fight. You know, if Khabib gets him to the ground, it's done. Will we see any variations from what everyone is saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think Conor is a well-rounded mixed martial artist enough to know that if he gets taken down, it's not necessarily over. You know what I mean? I think he's got the scrambling ability. I just think if it continues throughout a 5-round fight, that's when he might start to fade and have a lot of issues. Because we've seen him fade before, and I know he says he's in great shape, and I'm sure he is. But there's something about the way he fights or the way he approaches things that towards the 4th and 5th round, he's going to be tired. When a guy like Khabib, you don't want to be that guy. But I think Conor's got to do more than just land that left hand. I think he's got to just have the best night of controlling distance, which is what he does well anyway. So I think he's got to go out, run out to the center, and not let Khabib back him up. He's got to figure out a way to keep Khabib guessing himself and questioning whether or not he wants to go in for that shot with Conor. If he can do that, he can knock him out. He can win. If Khabib can get Conor on his heels, backing up, and not able to set with that left hand when he looks to counter, then it could be, you know, all Nurmagomedov. But man, I think I'm so excited because I really don't know. I keep thinking about it, and I want to say Conor just because every time I think he's not going to win, this son of a bitch goes out there and knocks somebody out cold. You know what I mean? So it's just hard to bet against that guy right now.
Do you think the 2 years out is going to have a big effect on Conor? I know we've had the boxing and a conversation with this tonight with Petesy Carroll and Neil Seary. Do you think that's going to be a major issue? You know, Neil sees it as a big positive, having that whole boxing camp for 4 months and the fight with Floyd Mayo. It's going to be a big learning curve in terms of adding further repertoire to his stand-up skills.
Yeah, I just think McGregor's one of those guys that kind of stuff, with the amount of confidence and craziness that he's got going on, I don't think ring rust is really going to be too much of an issue for him. And I think he'll be healthy. You know, I think he did have a lot of issues. I think we forget that too. That he was dealing with a lot of knee issues and things like that, and he had a thumb or a wrist problem for one of his fights too. So he might be healed up and feeling fresh. And I think more than anything, he's hungry to get in there because, look, Conor doesn't necessarily have to do this, right? He even said it himself. I don't have to go in there and fight for this money. I want to do this because I love doing this, and I want to shut him up, and I want to shut all the critics up. So I think that's a positive way to be coming into a fight, is that you're doing it for a reason, for a statement, for legacy, as opposed to doing it for money.
What's your whole thoughts on obviously the press conference the other night? You know, there was a lot of people saying it was a bit OTT from Conor, going along the lines of, you know, political geo sort of references, and obviously mentioning a Kadyrov and, you know, calling Khabib's father a coward. What were your thoughts on that? Just part of the game, part of the build-up? Yeah,
he's insane. I mean, he's not afraid to go there. You know what I mean? He went there. He went after his dad. He attacked Ali. He made fun of him in every way he can. He's trying to get under his skin. That's what he does. And Khabib's a hard guy to do that to, right? He's not an easy guy to rattle. He's a pretty cool customer. So to do that, you got to get dirty. You got to get political. You got to bring his religion up. You got to bring his father and his manager up. You got to make fun of him and be belligerent a little bit with him. It's all smart. That's what he's doing. That's why he's drinking. That's why he's doing all this stuff. He's doing it to drive him nuts.
Did he rattle him, in your opinion?
I think Khabib did a pretty good job at keeping it collected. But I think I think with the comments of the day, I think he can't help but be a little bit pissed off. I don't know about rattle, but pissed. But that's what Conor wants. But I would say Khabib did a really good job of being him and being himself. And that's what he's got to do to win that fight. He's got to just be Khabib. He can't go in there like Jose or Eddie and get a little riled up. It's hard to do, man. I know I would have trouble doing that with my personality. So I give Khabib Khabib a lot of credit for how he handled some of the attacks that Conor threw at him.
Yeah, no, they don't call you 0 to 100 for nothing, Mr. Felder. Just one final one before I let you go. I do appreciate the time. Ultimately, you know, we're not going to be having you on the show again before the fight, but you know, who gets the job done? If I have to put a shotgun to your head, as I said to Pat Healy the other day, who's getting the job done here in Las Vegas? Who's walking away with that World UFC lightweight title? You're like me, buddy. I've been going back and forth in it, you know, solidly for the last 2 weeks.
I really do, bro. I'm the same way. I think everybody really is, because I think when we first talked about this, right, it was like, oh, Khabib, easy. Yeah. But like anything Conor does, as it starts going on, you start going, oh.
He puts that doubt in your mind. He puts that doubt in your mind. He definitely does.
He does.
I agree, 100%. It's a strange way of looking at it, but...
Hey, my nickname's the Irish Dragon. Even though he threw some stuff through bus windows and kind of caused me a headache.
And your fight fell out as well. Have you forgiven Conor for that?
One of them checks you're sending to people. I'll go with Conor, because now I'm going to ask him for a little discretionary bonus after this fight if he beats Khabib.
Are you being serious about that, or is that a joke?
No, I'm totally joking. No, UFC took care of me. Trust me, I'm not going there.
Paul Felder, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Looking forward to seeing you get back in there. Hopefully, as you said, the end of the year or just
and the very end of the year or early next year.
Mr. Felder, always a pleasure. Do appreciate the time. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, man. I love talking to you.